My daughter has a serious long-term illness and an intellectual disability. Up until she was approximately 8 or 9 years old, our life revolved mainly around finding the right treatment balance for her and making sure that she gets the services that she needs. I was constantly worrying about her health and her future. On the surface, I was doing okay, but inside, I wasn't coping so well. I was trying to control something that I could not. As she grew older, the difference between her compared to her peers became more evident. One day, we were at a party where I watched her try to join in a group of peers approximately her age, only for them to walk away. And this continued for some time, her trying to join and then moving away. Eventually, they went into another room and closed the door behind them. And she didn't understand why. It broke my heart. My daughter's experience reflects a much broader reality. According to OECD, as many as 56% of persons identifying as belonging to a minority group reports experiences of discrimination over the past year. And we're not talking about a small number of people over here. According to WHO, approximately 1 in 6 persons has a serious disability globally. And in the EU, 1 in 8 persons on average is living outside of their country of origin. And these are just a couple of examples of diversity. While my daughter's experience at the party broke my heart, it also made me want to act. I realized that while that was the most hurtful experience up until then, more would follow until our society would see people with disability as equally worthy and they would be truly included. It's been really rough dealing with my daughter's long-term illness. It's been rough dealing with the intellectual disability, fighting for the services that she needs. And it's been rough dealing with the different behavioral symptoms that she has. But the societal behavior, the societal feedback, it has been so making it so much harder to deal with. So I started using my professional experience in mainstream cultural diversity to talk about diversity more broadly. And when I talked about mainstreaming diversity, I often heard comments like, well, you talk about equity, diversity, and inclusion. These are important concepts, yes, but these are so abstract, so hard to understand. It's hard for me to apply them in practice. So to make these complex, abstract terms more accessible, my colleagues and I have identified 4 simple steps which help us move towards inclusion. We looked at research, theory, talked with different experts, and drew on our own expertise. This work was done within a huge European project that involves 21 countries called Jakarta. These 4 steps, we also call them the 4 C's to make them more memorable. They are critical reflection, context and data, co-design, and communication. So let's go through each of these and see how they can be applied in practice. The first one is critical reflection. Critical reflection is all about asking yourself the hard questions. It's like looking in the mirror to see within yourself the different biases, stereotypes, and prejudices that we all have. It's about training your eyes to see the invisible, the forces that decide who gets to belong and who does not. Here you can ask yourself, what kind of opportunities have I had that others do not have? What kind of assumptions am I making about others based on their background, how they look, based on their level of ability? I can tell you from personal experience, critical reflection is not always pleasant. You can realize things about yourself that you would not want to admit even to yourself. For example, among the many things that I have realized is just how much prejudice and bias I myself had towards intellectual disability, and how this created a lot of fear, anxiety, shame, and vulnerability. Noticing these about myself has helped me move towards better acceptance of my daughter's disability. Critical reflection is the first step to change, and change happens when we stop looking away. The second C is context and data. Context is all about power. Who has the money, who has the influence in the society, who has the opportunities. Data shapes our understanding of the world. It shapes our decision making. Data is not just about numbers, but it's also about the real life experiences behind the numbers. Here, you can ask yourself, what kind of information is shaping my idea of normal? You can also ask yourself, whose stories are featured, whose stories are highlighted, and whose stories are left unnoticed, unheard. We focus so much in our society on abilities, celebrating different achievements, different social milestones. We're expected to get a good job, make money, preferably a lot of money. And if we're not reaching these different social milestones, we're kind of seen as not really as worthy. But the thing is that even though my daughter will most likely not be reaching many of the socially desirable milestones as her many other peers, it doesn't make her any less worthy. It just means that she has different milestones to celebrate. The third C is co-design. And co-design is all about including diverse voices, especially the voices that are often left unheard, who are often forgotten, and making sure that these diverses shape what comes next. Inclusion doesn't happen by chance. It happens when someone decides to make space. So here, you could ask yourself, what can I do to create opportunities for those who have less of these than myself? You can also ask yourself, what kind of behavior am I modeling? Adults are always responsible for modeling behavior for children and youth. At the party, I tried to support my daughter in joining in with her peers, but once they went into another room and locked the door behind them, I went over to one of the parents and asked them to do something about it. I was disappointed that I had to ask for them to intervene, and they didn't do anything about it before that. Looking back, I don't blame the children for their behavior at the party, but I do hold the adults accountable. The last C is communication. We're communicating all the time. Every glance, every gesture, every social media post, it tells a story. And it's not just what we're saying, but how we're saying it and what is left unsaid. Communication can build bridges, but it can also build walls. Here you could ask yourself, what kind of messages am I actually sending through my words, through my body language, through what I'm leaving unsaid? You could also ask yourself, how are my values reflected in my communication? It can be a lot easier to leave out the hard conversations, but avoiding the elephant in the room doesn't make it go away. Silence can just make others feel unseen and unworthy. So after the whole incident at the party, neither the other parents nor us actually brought it up. And so we just kind of stopped going to those parties. And then several years later, the event came up again, and there was a lot of feelings of hurt, of upset that came up. And the whole thing was really blown out of proportion. Something that could have been probably managed much better if it would have been addressed in time. So we have talked about the 4 C's now: critical reflection, context and data, co-design, and communication. These are the 4 steps that can help us move towards a more inclusive society. And even with the best intentions, we're quite likely to get it wrong sometimes. But when you get feedback about that, I hope that you are not offended. I hope you don't feel threatened. I hope that you see it as an opportunity to learn, as a sign of trust, an opportunity to do better next time. Because after all, it's not about you, it's about those who are in a much more vulnerable situation than you. Small steps matter. Reflect, listen, amplify, include. And it all starts with you and me. Thank you.